Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we bring you the latest news and updates from around the world. I'm your host, Barbara, and I'm glad you're joining me today. We're starting off with a developing story that's making headlines globally. A recent missile strike in the Ukrainian city of Sumy has resulted in significant loss of life and injury. According to reports, the strike, which occurred on Sunday morning, killed at least 34 people, including 2 children, and wounded 117 others. The Russian Defense Ministry has issued a statement claiming that the strike was targeted at a meeting of Ukrainian military commanders, and that more than 60 Ukrainian servicemen were killed in the attack. However, Ukrainian officials have disputed this account, stating that the strike hit a residential area and was a blatant attack on civilians. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has denied that civilians or residential infrastructure were targeted, and reiterated that only Defense Ministry information is considered official under Russian law. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned the attack, describing it as a horrific act of violence against innocent people. It's essential to note that the situation in Ukraine remains complex and sensitive, with both sides presenting different narratives about the conflict. As we continue to follow this story, we'll strive to provide you with balanced and accurate information, without taking sides or promoting any particular agenda. The international community has been quick to respond to the attack, with many world leaders condemning the violence and calling for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. US President Donald Trump has also weighed in, describing the strike as a horrible thing and suggesting that Russia may have made a mistake. As we delve deeper into this story, we'll examine the implications of the strike and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. We'll also explore the global response and what it might mean for international relations. That's all for now. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into some of the most significant stories making headlines around the world. Today, we're focusing on South Africa, where several developments have caught our attention. Firstly, let's talk about a significant move by the South African government to address its strained relationship with the United States. President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed former Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas as a special envoy to the U.S. This decision comes at a time when relations between the two countries have soured, following the U.S.'s decision to cut financial aid and expel South Africa's ambassador. Jonas, known for his outspoken criticism of corruption during his time in government, will be tasked with advancing South Africa's diplomatic, trade, and bilateral priorities. He will work closely with government officials and private sector leaders to promote South Africa's interests. This move is seen as an effort by the Ramaphosa administration to mend ties with the U.S., which have been strained under President Donald Trump. It's worth noting that Jonas's appointment has been met with interest, given his background in fighting corruption. During his tenure as Deputy Finance Minister, he was a key figure in a judicial inquiry into graft and influence peddling during former President Jacob Zuma's leadership. His experience and reputation could potentially play a significant role in rebuilding trust between the two nations. In another related development, South Africa has been dealing with internal issues, including the re-examination of its past. The country is set to reopen an inquiry into the death of anti-apartheid activist Ahmed Timol, who died in police custody in 1971. This move highlights the ongoing efforts by the South African government to confront its complex history and provide closure for the families of those who suffered during the apartheid era. Additionally, the country is also navigating its way through a challenging diplomatic landscape. The U.S. has expressed disapproval of South Africa's land reform policies and its genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. These issues have contributed to the current tension between the two nations. As we continue to follow these developments, It's essential to consider the complexities of international relations and the efforts made by countries like South Africa to navigate these challenges. The appointment of Mcebisi Jonas as a special envoy to the U.S. is a significant step towards rebuilding ties, but it remains to be seen how effective this move will be in addressing the underlying issues. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbarous Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbarous Bulletin. We've got one final story to wrap up today's show. As we've been following the elections in Ecuador, it appears that President Daniel Noboa has secured a full 4-year term, according to the country's electoral authority. His leftist rival, Luisa González, has denounced the results as grotesque fraud and is demanding a recount. Now let's take a closer look at the numbers. Noboa received 56% of the vote, compared to González's 44%, with a lead of over 1 million votes. This comes after a tight first round in February, where Noboa came ahead by just over 16,700 votes. It's worth noting that both candidates had observers from their parties at polling places, and the Organization of American States has stated that the declaration of Noboa's win is consistent with what they observed during voting. Noboa's campaign focused on addressing security concerns in the coastal provinces, which have been plagued by violence, and it seems that his message resonated with voters. He's pledged to continue measures such as military deployments, job creation, and increased seizures of drugs and guns. On the other hand, González argued for more social investment and better trained police officers. It's also important to consider the economic implications of Noboa's victory. Bond markets are expected to rally, and his government will need to address issues like unemployment and private investment in the oil sector. As Professor Christian Carpio from the University of the Americas in Quito pointed out, economic management will be key. Ecuador must recover, and the government must work on investment, public spending, and the electricity provision issue. As we conclude this story, it's essential to acknowledge that both candidates have their supporters and detractors. We'll continue to monitor the situation in Ecuador and provide updates as more information becomes available. That's all for today's Barbarous Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged. That's all for today's Barbarous Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.